pine or shine. So, guys, one guy that you are looking that you wouldn't start based off of matchup, based off of some of the news out there, and one guy that you are absolutely smashing the yes button, putting him in your lineup. It's pine and shine time, guys. Who you got?
So my shine this week, Philip Rivers. Last week, 363 yards, a touchdown. He was 36 for 46 through the air. He threw some interceptions, but Philip Rivers is a crafty veteran who looks like, hey, it looks like this Indy offense. He actually has, a competent offensive line. So he's got some time to actually throw the football and spot his targets out. And my pine is the defense that's playing Philip Rivers this week, the Minnesota Vikings. Last week, they got torched by a crafty veteran who doesn't have a ton of wow-ya weapons, at least outside of the top tier number one true wideout. That was Aaron Rodgers, who he threw, 4 touchdowns through the air against the Vikings. We were talking about this earlier in the show as well. The Vikings gave up 522 yards of offense. The defense itself gave up 41 points. Kirk Cousins decided that it would be a cool thing to turtle in the end zone and gave up a safety. So just 41 points is all they should have been credited for, although I know a lot of leagues will give those safety points up to a defense and special teams. But yikes, you give up 5 touchdowns, 4 of them through the air. I am not convinced that this young Vikings secondary will be able to slow down Philip Rivers, and nor do I think that they'll be able to get pressure on him. So I'm staying away from the Vikings defense and special teams. That is my pine. They cost me points. I hate it when a defense and special teams costs you points in a fantasy. I mean, literally negative points. And I cannot stand that. I'm booting the Vikings off of every team that I have. I'm finding other defenses.
All right, I'm going to attack this slightly differently. I'm going to do groups of players, so bear with me. I am pining all New York Jets running backs until we figure out what the hell's going on with that situation after Lev Bell hit the IR. I am pining all Miami Dolphins running backs until we can figure out whether it's Jordan Howard, Myles Gaskin, how Matt Breida fits into that picture, and kind of get around there. And I am pining all San Francisco 49er pass catchers unless Kittle is playing. Outside of Kittle, I'm not touching any of those. So all those guys I am pining. Shining, all Atlanta Falcons offensive players, all Dallas Cowboys offensive players, and Alvin Kamara. I think Alvin Kamara is going to be the benefactor of a ton of extra work with Michael Thomas being out. You're going to see him continue to probably lead that team in targets like he did in week 1 coming out of the backfield. He's going to be Drew Brees' kind of relief valve. You'll get to see him get a little bit more run. He's fully healthy and not fighting the ankle injury that he had last year. So Alvin Kamara on top of those guys, those are all shiners for me. You absolutely want to play all of them.
My shine, I'm going to start there, is going to be a guy that's going to have a little bit of a bounce back game, and that's going to be Nick Chubb. Bouncing back. He's got a very favorable matchup this week going up against Cincinnati. So we should see some very good things there. I think that, they won't have such a negative game script going through most of that game. So you'll see Nick Chubb get a little bit more run room there. And I think that there's a real good chance that he's going to bounce back and finish inside the top 12 this week. My pine, I've got 2 of them, both of them at the running back position, and 2 guys that I am not wanting to start on any of my rosters. And that is one Mr. Chris Carson, who had a very efficient week last week, but again, we saw probably more Carlos Hyde play out there than I'd necessarily would like, as well as Travis Homer got into the mix there as well. So Seattle kind of going to that running back by committee a little bit more so than I would have liked to see. Plus, they're up against a tougher matchup with New England this week, as well as the fact that Melvin Gordon is a guy that I'm not going to be playing. Very, very tough matchup against the Steelers. And we just saw the Steelers go through and hold Saquon Barkley, one of the best backs in the league, to very, very few yards. So that's another guy that is going to be riding the pine for me.